I was always aware about his interest in politics, and although our politics might have diverged, I think we just decided there were different ways of achieving a just society. I think working with the industries that we're strong in, so things like the creative arts, like science, like technology, like education, I think supporting those sectors and then doing those things that make the city pleasant to live in.
Hello, Rafana. Welcome to another podcast. Exciting today. We have a very special guest in the studio. We'll introduce him shortly. But I'm also excited co-hosting this podcast with our amazing volunteer, Luca. How are you?
I'm good. It's a pleasure finally getting to co-host. I'm usually behind the camera, but it's good to change it up a little bit every now and then.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So are you excited about today?
Interviewing the mayor. It's a big one.
Right.
Probably one of the bigger podcasts we've done.
I think so, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Mayor, how are you? Welcome to the studio of Voiceofaroha. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be here. Yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. I think this is week 7 or week 8 and the mayoralty, and still getting used to the rhythm of it and so on. But look, I'm enjoying it so far.
That's amazing. Okay, great. So, I'm sure the people watching now, you become famous, they know you're Mayor of Wellington. But just in case, we also ask this for any guest. If we give you the mic, how would you love to introduce yourself? Like, who is Andrew Little?
Yeah, I've had a background as a lawyer. When I was at university, I was the Students' Association president. I was the Victoria University student president and then the National Student President. I went on to become a lawyer. I worked for a trade union. I then became the trade union secretary, the leader of the union, and that brought me into contact, obviously, with the workers I was representing, but their employers as well, and a lot of industries and industry leaders. And then from there went into Parliament, and then it was a cabinet minister after that. So I think I am driven by that sense of public service, of serving people, of advocating for and representing people. I think what drives me is a sense of justice. I think I want to see people getting a fair go, being treated fairly. I look at organisations or institutions that exercise power over people, and that's important. That's the way we organise ourselves. But power has to be moderated by, things like a justice system and organised groups, citizens groups. That's what democracy is. That's a check and a balance on the exercise of power. In the end, it comes down to people being treated fairly. That's what drives me.
Right. Wow. It's a great, beautiful. You have a rich history out there of all this leadership journey. So if I ask you, if we go back to your younger self, when you started, how was that passion? How did it start? I really want to participate, being president of the views that time.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, when I grew up in New Plymouth in Taranaki. It was, I was very fortunate. Had 4 brothers and sisters, so there were 5 of us and our parents. I think my father was, both my parents were English, but he had time serving overseas, in fact, in the Middle East. His big experience was in the 1950s in the Middle East, serving in an area that is now the United Arab Emirates. He served in an area near Abu Dhabi. He forged relationships there. He saw some of the issues there that was happening, particularly with the Arab populations. And although he was quite conservative in his politics, ever since then he carried this thing about people being treated fairly and responsibly. Everybody in the world having their place and being safe and secure. And I think he gave that to us as his kids. I was always aware about his interest in politics, and although our politics might have diverged, I think we just decided there were different ways of achieving a just society. I mixed with other people who had that sort of different view. So I think as a child, I I grew up in a household where the state or the government doing the right thing was important, and that thing about people being safe and secure was important as well. And I've carried that with me ever since.
Beautiful. That's an inspiring story. That's great. Cool.
It seems like, your education and your career paths throughout your life have like consistently built yourself up to, the point of mayoralty. Do you see mayoralty as kind of like the climax of your career, or is there like maybe a further step, who knows, Prime Minister in the future?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reluctant to say it's the last thing I do. I think, actually, I thought being a cabinet minister would be the kind of the pinnacle of what I would do. I left politics and parliament in 2023, and I went back to the law, and was loving doing it. And I have to say, even a year ago, I was not thinking about the mayoralty. I'd been approached about it, but I'd actually said no. I said, look, I'm back doing the law. I love practicing law, and I'll just carry on doing that. But then I still got more people asking me about it, and in the end I decided to put my hat in the ring. And I did that because I could see there was a need, and I thought that I had the skills that would help Wellington, and that's why I did that. But look, who knows? I'd like to be mayor for a wee while now that I've started it. But who knows what would happen after?
Yeah.
Even though I'm 60 years old, but I still think I'm young enough to do some other things.
You're looking good.
So look, let's see what happens.
Yeah. And now that you are the mayor, what's your vision for Wellington? Where do you hope to see the city in the coming years?
Yeah, look, we have some big challenges. I think one of the big things is growing the population. We've had pretty much a static population for some years now, and I think partly that's because people have found it difficult to afford living in Wellington, and also I think Wellington has sort of offered less and less than what was around some years ago. So for me, growing the population through things like affordable housing, making the inner city a great place to come and live and to work. I think working with the industries that we're strong in, so things like the creative arts, like science, like technology, like education, I think supporting those sectors, and then doing those things that make the city pleasant to live in. So green spaces, making the city safe to walk in, safe to be in, making entertainment easy to get access to, all those sorts of things. So a city that is very, very vibrant, a city that really draws on its harbour geography. We are a very attractive city. People love coming here and seeing it, and people find it an easy city to get around. So drawing on those strengths and making it an appealing place to be part of, that's what I'm focused on.
Wow, beautiful. So during your campaign, when you started, you had that kind of slogan, like serious leadership. If you talk to us like a little bit what that's meaning in practice, what's your priority for, let's say now it's end of 2025, for the next year, what will be you want to see like in the first year of your mayor, what you want to really see change in our city?
I think a couple of things. I think that the serious leadership slogan was about understanding that council has had a bit of difficulty, I think, working well together. That's the elected councillors.
Right.
I think one of my strengths is that I can get on pretty much with anybody. I look for people's strengths. I look for what it is they have to offer, and I like to create a place where they can play to their strengths. I think I'm open. I'm always open to conversation and dialogue. I'm reasonably pragmatic. I can disagree with people, but I don't disagree in a way that means that communication breaks down. I'm looking for ways through disagreement, and where I need to accept that actually maybe some of my ideas aren't the best at the time, that maybe somebody else has got better ideas. I'm totally open to that. So I think making council work better, and then I think the way the council organisation, the way it interacts with citizens, whether it's somebody trying to get a consent for a new building, or whether it's consulting over a new roadway or a new green space, a council organisation that listens carefully as well and operates in a way that's respectful of people, in a way that I think people have complained they haven't seen in the more recent past. So changing those things are about changing the culture of the organisation. But I think that'll make a big difference, and it will give confidence, I think, to more Wellingtonians that the council is there for them, and is there about making a good city, not sort of having sort of internal fights.
Yeah. Then on the other one, I don't know because I saw there was a really big mandate. I saw amazing votes coming, and kind of like we see the city is exciting to have a new mayor. So I want to check like for as a next year, 2026, how we will see like some of the promises will come quickly. Do you give a time frame? Because it's been 7 weeks now.
Yeah.
And do you think like you're getting into it, getting the councillors also, we can make it happen as soon as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think the relationships between councils is good. There's good, healthy dialogue. I think people are talking to each other, and when we do have disagreements, it's not causing a whole lot of upset. We just sort of work our way through it. In terms of some of the things I wanted to get done, some of the internal stuff in council, there's a bit of a process to go through. That's fine. In terms of some of the things about addressing the financial control issues, we've started on that. The council chief executive had commissioned a report already anyway. That came out last week, so there's some work there to focus on. And then I think the things about what happens in the city that makes a difference. Look, I think we're going to see in 2026 with things like the opening of the new library, Te Matapihi, when that opens, that whole area around Victoria Street, for example, in the Civic Square, that's all going to be completely transformed. That'll make it a nicer place for people to come to. So we'll start to see those sorts of things that will make a difference. Yeah.
Cool. Amazing.
Looking ahead, what key developments or opportunities are coming up for Wellington that you're excited about? I mean, for me, the library is one of the biggest ones that I'm excited about. But
yeah,
how about
and
you?
even before then, in 2 weeks' time, we've got the premiere of Avatar.
Oh yeah,
it's one of there's 4 premieres in the world, and one of them is going to be here in Wellington.
Oh, awesome.
So the 13th of December. There's going to be a massive day in Wellington. It's not just the premiere of Avatar, we've also got a cricket test on at the Basin Reserve. So there's going to be a lot of people coming into Wellington.
That's awesome.
But the thing about the Avatar premiere, it sort of underscores one of the city's strengths, which is our film industry. And the work that James Cameron, who's the director of the movie, but also people like Sir Peter Jackson and Sir Richard Taylor, what they do out at Miramar is just amazing. So we get to sort of reclaim that title. And then next year, the opening of the library, we've got the International Festival of the Arts, which happens every 2 years. We'll have those sorts of things, just bring the city to life. Towards the end of the year, there'll be other things that happen in the middle, but towards the end of the year, the Town Hall is expected to open. That's going to have world-class, state-of-the-art facilities for recording. Our orchestra will be able to record there. So those things will make a big difference to the city, and I'm really looking forward to those things happening.
Amazing. On that point, how council is really like to invest in the communities and to bring the vibrant back to the city, because we see a lot of people really missing that. It's a lot of people also moving, which I want to also another question ask you about. Any plans around our younger people, like younger populations? Yeah,
I think look, those things, those events that we support, that council typically supports, things like Cuba Duper, but also getting artists coming in, performing, that's really important too. There's a lot of competition on between different cities in New Zealand, but actually just around the world, to get visiting artists to perform in particular centres. So, we want to do what we can to attract those events here. We've got Ed Sheeran playing at the Sky Stadium in January. We want to get more things like that. In terms of other activities that communities themselves run too. So we know, things like we see the Diwali events in September, October. We see Matariki in the middle of the year, Māori community. But those sorts of community events are really strong as well, and we want to support those, grow them as much as we can. There are also reasons for people to come to Wellington. Wellington, one of the things about Wellington is we are the most diverse population of any city in New Zealand.
Yes.
And that means we've got all these communities whose customs we can draw on and their traditional observances. That's stuff that we can celebrate. All of us can celebrate and be part of too. So I'm really keen to see us continue to do that.
Okay, I'm loving that. I'm hearing because more events, more opportunities to go to, more ways to building the bridge between different communities.
That's
and
right.
understanding each other and celebrating each other.
Yeah.
It's how cool it is.
Yeah.
If every month we have a different celebrations happening in the city.
So you mentioned the city's diversity and how great it is. Can we expect increased support, or is there concern about funding cuts?
Certainly I'm really keen that we do continue to support at the community level. Like every council, we've got to keep an eye on rates, and even just today the government's announced a rate capping policy, so we've always got to be careful about that. But in the end, I come back to what makes a city. It's people, and it's the stuff that brings people together or gives people a chance to be themselves, to be who they are, to mix in, whether it's their neighbourhood or their community that they identify with. We've got to still continue to support that. Strong communities is what makes a good city, and a city that people want to be part of. So I'm very keen to see the council continue to provide a level of support that means that stuff happens.
Right, that's cool. Then just back on the younger population or young people, you may see it's actually across the country it's happening, like a lot of young people leaving.
Yeah.
So many when you meet with them, say actually there's nothing much to do in Wellington, which part you already mentioned we will try to bring more vibrant entertainment. Is there any other plans to support youth initiative, youth programs?
Yeah, I think one of the things too is it's about work and jobs too. I mean, it's one of the reasons why people don't stick around, is young people in particular. They don't see the job opportunities. So I'm very keen for us, and we'll work with industries. I know a lot of industries who need, industries like IT and creative arts who have and need a lot of young people to work in them. That's that's kind of industries where there's an entry level that is really suitable for young people. So that's one of the reasons we want to work with those industries to make sure that they've got what they need to stay here and offer those opportunities. We're also doing things like offering internships and things like that. Working with the universities, we know that transition from university to work is the critical area, and working with the universities here to make sure that they're offering good advice, and we're understanding who's coming out of the universities, and work with industry to make sure there are opportunities there. That thing about making it affordable for businesses to operate here is critical. That's what creates opportunities. So all of those elements all come together. We've got one of the committees I've set up as one dedicated to an economic plan, an economic development plan that is about dealing with all those things to make sure that we're getting our strategies right and creating those opportunities so that people do stay here and people come here to be part of those sectors.
Amazing. No, this is exciting. I have two questions which been asked to me before. I was telling them I'm going to meet the mayor and we will be doing a podcast with him. So one of them, it's about there is a lot of with the small businesses. They're finding a little bit struggle when there's new plan of parking. So they see the frustrations there, but I also see the vision of having the cycleway and things. Do you think with the current plan we have, will there be any change, or what will happen? What kind of support for them will be there?
Look, I think the issue you touch on is really real. It's about, it is important to have a city where people who want to cycle can do so safely, but we're also a city where people have got to come in from the suburbs. Not everybody can take public transport. People do have to come in cars, and so they've got to be able to come here and know that they can get to where they need to go to in the city. They've got a good chance of getting parking. So I think it's about bringing some balance to all of that. I know that even last week I had the situation myself where I was in the city, had an event to go to, looking for a park, and I saw this whole street of car parks and all coned up. All the cones are up, so you can't park here. And there wasn't a single thing happening. And I thought, why would you come? This is the peak traffic time. So I got back to the office the next day and I said, look, what is going on here? We can't just shut people out of car parks for no good reason. And so, one of the things the council's now said they will do is they're going to keep a close eye on making sure that every available park is available. We're not just going to rope things off. When it comes to the future cycleways, we're just going to have to get a better balance between, protecting that choice of people who want to go by bike and do so safely, but also know that there are a whole bunch of people who need to bring their car into town and they need a place to park.
Right.
So we'll get a better balance for that.
Good, beautiful. I have one more question. Then Luke, if you have one, you can jump. This is another one at the. Some people say, will the Wellington City have any new plan to extend like the housing market to open for development things?
Yeah.
Because I know we want to drive more people, so more people they need also space, because we don't want to make the prices high and thing. So will the council be open for that, let's say, a new development, new contractors who are having different ideas but better solutions? Will council be open for that?
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, look, I'm very keen for us to embrace more of the high density housing, people in apartments and townhouses. And I've met some developers with some great ideas who want to do that. And so we need to make sure that the council, when it's applying its regulations and its planning processes, that it does so in a way that is facilitative, that it enables those developers to come up with the new ideas and to go ahead and do those things. The council, of course, it has an important role to regulate stuff that's about keeping people safe. But we want to see those developments come on, and if we want more affordable housing, we're going to do that with the more high density housing arrangements. So that's an important priority for me, is to make progress in that area.
Amazing.
Back to a bit more about you. When looking at kind of your whole career and your leadership journey, when you've faced challenges, how have you found the strength or strategy to overcome them?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things. I think my thing is always, never panic. So, you can be confronted with things, and often people will present to you and say, look, we've got this, quick, it's urgent. And then you just got to take a deep breath, and then you've got to work out, well, how urgent is this? And if it's a difficult problem, you don't solve difficult problems in an instant. You actually got to give it time to think. So I never buy into other people's panic, and I don't panic myself. So that's giving time. And then I think it is about saying to yourself, have I got all the right information? Have I got the best information? Sometimes a decision does have to be made quickly, and you don't have the luxury of time. So you have to go with the best of what you've got, and sometimes that might be incomplete. But you kind of, the world's not perfect, so you do the best you can with what you've got. I think the other thing that's really important is communication. So communicating to people, particularly people who will be affected by a decision that you take. So knowing that, you owe it to them to say, look, here's the situation, I've got to make a decision, here are my options, and I'm making this decision for this reason, and being very clear about the reason why. And then letting people respond to some. I work on the basis that no one has a monopoly on wisdom. I'm a big fan of getting ideas from everybody else. I'm a big sponge for other people's thoughts and ideas. And sometimes the idea that seems really crazy at one point in time might actually be the answer to a really hard problem. We just got to sort of think it through. So I think, having that open mind, I think the more you can do to let other people own the solution makes it more enduring as well, which is why being open to feedback and changing things when you hear good ideas is important as well. All of those things, I think, are important elements of leadership.
Yeah, I love that. This is just amazing. Thank you for that wisdom. So I'm still interested, follow up. During your career and all of this leadership rules you have from cabinet and etc., have you faced any really the challenges situation you can share with us and the audience, and how you overcome with that?
I think probably the hardest job I ever did was health minister, because
COVID time.
Because you can look. There's so many things that need to be done, and even with a big budget, the budget's never enough. So you've still got to work out orders of priority, what's more important, and you've got to think about, if I spend this money here, it's not available for somewhere else. So what's going to be the benefit? There were times when I was faced with decisions that I had a very little amount, a small amount of money to address a number of problems. I had to think really hard about what the priorities were, what I could do. There was one in particular. We had the chance of buying a drug to deal with cystic fibrosis, and it was a radical new drug. It had been other countries that had it, and it just made a dramatic difference. And a couple of cystic fibrosis who had access to the drug came to see me and told me just the incredible difference it made. And what it meant was, a lot of cystic fibrosis sufferers, they end up having to go to a hospital a lot, get breathing problems, respiratory problems, and at any time, things could change for them. They need emergency help. This drug prevented all that stuff, but it was a very expensive drug. And when I looked at it, the number of people who would benefit from it, the impact that it would have on the health system, but most importantly on their lives, we managed to negotiate a good deal with supplier. I had to go back to the Minister of Finance to get a bit of extra money, but I thought it's worth it doing that because the benefit for those people, for their families, and also for the health system, less pressure on the health system, it made it worth it. It took a bit of effort, took a bit of time, but it did that. And I know, and that drug is now available, and it's just transforming people's lives. It's a few hundred people, but it's absolutely transforming their lives. And that's the sort of thing that you're going to work through to get to that point. But I'm pleased I did it.
Yeah, amazing. It's great. I see that you're putting people first.
You got to think about the way people live their lives.
Yes.
And for me, and it's the thing I think about Wellington too. We want Wellington to be a city where people can live their best lives, and you've got to create the environment for that. So it's about doing that.
Absolutely amazing. So we're coming kind of end of this time. I just want to keep going, but there's a couple of questions then. But there's one question one of our team asked before we record, which is, it's been 7 weeks for you, and what was your favorite part being a mayor so far?
Yeah, I think the favourite, but I'm enjoying, and I'm doing more of it than actually I did it as the Minister MP, is just getting out into the community, meeting groups and organisations, a whole lot of people doing amazing things, and making a real difference to people's lives, but actually to the life of Wellington. Making Wellington an incredibly vibrant place to be. I really enjoy getting out, being part of their activities and their communities. That's been a great highlight for me.
Love that. People, you can watching. We will keep inviting into different communities events.
Please, I'll cram as much as I can into my diary. My office team keeps saying, no, Andrew, you can't do this, you can't do that. I said, actually, you know what? I've spent half an hour there and half an hour there and half an hour there. I can actually do 3. So I do try to fit as much as I can in, but I do look to those opportunities because they're very satisfying.
And get ready for a lot of food from communities.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I have other question before we close.
I've got one more question. What message would you like to share with our audience today? So especially our young and multicultural audience and community.
Yeah, I think, look, New Zealand is a great country for opportunity, and Wellington is a great city for it too. So if you have a dream, if you have something you really wanted to do, never give up. And life is full of challenges, and sometimes it's full of disappointments as well. And I've had plenty of those. And something happens. It's not the way you want it to go. Give yourself a bit of time. Pick yourself up. Dust yourself off. Take the next step. But never give up. Never give up on your dream, and never give up on hope. And with that determination and with effort, it's amazing what you can do. And always look after each other. Always be good to yourself and be good to each other.
Wow.
Incredible.
How a great message. Thank you so much. We have one last question, which is, this is a part of our tradition of the season. It's a question being left to you from previous guests, and you will know if you watch our YouTube, so you see which one is it. But let's see what question they left for you, and then you will also have a chance to write a question for them.
Question for the next one.
Yeah. Great. So the question is, if you could give a piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be? I
think it would be to to slow down and spend a bit more time with your friends and the people who are important to you, because they sustain you, and they sustain you emotionally, which is really important. I'm one of those people who has sometimes get an idea, I've got to do this, and charge ahead. And actually, if I'd spoken to a few more of my friends and said, right, this is what I want to do, I know more of them would have said, okay, I can help you do that. I've learned that in my journey. So slow down, enjoy your friends, because they will help you and sustain you, and that's really important.
Love it. Thank you so much. Mayor Andrew Little, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
It's been a great conversation.
And I'm looking forward for future opportunities, for conversation, and also making our beautiful city a beautiful city, so we can be proud of our city.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time and for this corridor.
Yeah.
Great. Luca, thank you. Thank you for co-hosting. And ka kite whanau, keep watching, and we see you next podcast. Ka kite.